Thanks, Kyle. Goalkeeper Erica Rooney and midfielder Allison Joyce were both named KIAC Offensive and Defensive Players of the Week. The women's soccer team, they were on a 3-game winning streak, and they were getting ready to play a home game against Georgetown, who is ranked number 24th in the NAIA Top 25 polls. This game was a defensive battle which saw neither team offense run away with the game. Georgetown struck first with a goal in the 24th minute of play. Point Park eventually tied things up in the 38th minute of play when senior Beth McKillen scored a goal from 20 yards out. From there, the 1-1 tie remained the same for the rest of the regulation, and even the game went into overtime, and wait, it went into double overtime as well, but nothing happened offensively. The game ended in a 1-1 tie. Erica Rooney shined as she had 18 saves in 110 minutes of play. The Pioneers' next game was against Maine Fort Kent. The Pioneers got off to a slow start as Maine Fort Kent in the 15th minute of play struck first. Point Park offense looked for an answer, but they were not able to generate any shots off their 18 shots they took. Maine Fort Kent scored again in the 52nd minute of play, and the final of the game was 2-0. The women's soccer team now have a record of 6-4-2 and a record of 3-0 in the KIAC. Next up on the schedule is KIAC rival Rio Grande. Thanks, Kyle. Unfortunately, that taste is going to continue to linger. The Point Park women's basketball team hit the hardwood for the first time this season on Halloween. The women who were picked to finish second in the KIAC Colonial Division squared off against NAIA Bluefield College. The women came out of the gate with a starting lineup of Leah Hurst, Carly Force, Shania Rivers, Selena DePietro, and Alexa Zanakis. The first quarter went the Pioneers' way as they ended the quarter with a score of 20-10. The second quarter was a different story as the women played their worst quarter of the game. In the second quarter, the Pioneers only scored 6 points to Bluefield's 20 points, giving Bluefield the 30-26 halftime lead. The second half was a tight contest as both teams played both quarters tough, but unfortunately, the Pioneers were not able to lead the game when it mattered the most, and that was when the clock hit 0. The final was 63-62 Bluefield. Bailey Buleka came off the bench and led all Pioneer scorers with 14 points and added 6 rebounds as well. A low point for the Pioneers in this game was their struggles from three-point land. They were 1 for 14 from three-point in the second half, and they shot a total of 9.1% overall in the game. Next on the schedule for the Pioneers is a home game against Northwestern Ohio on Friday.
Welcome back to the Pioneer Sideline. The men's and women's basketball team have seen a lot of changes during the off-season. As the season gets ready to tip off later, this week we have Josh Krupp, Blaine King, and birthday boy Paul Daniels joining us to break down the teams. All right, guys, we're going to start with the women's team, who has a very proud tradition, but at the end of last season, they did fall off the wagon and not end up making the national tournament, which is the first time in 3 years they haven't done that. Now let's talk about what they have this year. What do they have coming back?
Well, they got some returners, Alexis Zanakis, who will be a senior this year, Carly Force, Selena DePietro, and Leah Hurst, but they lost 4 of their starters from last year. So it's kind of like going into a rebuilding year sense for them, and we'll see how it goes early on, but that's the first impression off the top of my head.
I mean, they were really close last year, but towards the end of the season, injuries kind of plagued them, and this year, the loss of important players from the last couple of years. We thought last year they were going to be solid. Then Sam Weir went down towards the beginning of the year. We lost Jania McFadder late in the season. Now Sam Weir's not coming back. Kelly Johnson's not coming back. Jania McFadder's not coming back. Kayla Kiddio graduated. That was the team last year, basically. Alexis Anakis didn't start the year on the court. She started from the bench, and she came off the bench. So there are a lot of questions around this team, but they still have returners. They have the Zanakis, Force, and DePietro, who've been playing together since the freshman year of high school and even before that. But one person you forgot to mention, Bailey Buleka, who will be coming back for her sophomore year. She is going to add some height down low, the 6-foot forward center down there. So they do have some good talent on there, but they did lose important pieces.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head too, Josh. They lost, out of those 4 names, between Sam Weir, Kelly Johnson, Jania McFadder, and Kayla Kiddio, that's 50-plus points right there that they lost on average. And yes, they do have Bailey Buleka coming back. They do have Xenakis. They do have Carly Force. They do have Selena DiPietro, and they have Leah Hurst. But one name I say keep an eye out for is Devin Larkin, who's a 6'1" junior center. We all know that Coach Grenick likes to play defense, and he's really going to have to rely on that this year even more than in years past, because he's going to go with some struggles trying to shoot the basketball, trying to score points. This team, they're probably going to be hot and cold at times, especially from three-point land. This team is deep for three-point shooters, but they just have to make the shots. That's where the issues are.
Sticking with the newcomers you talk about, we have a freshman coming in named Caitlin Smith.
Yes.
5'6" guard out of Quigley High School. It's a good program down there at Quigley.
Yeah,
I think Kyle knows a little.
1,076
She
points.
scored over 1,000 points in her high school career. She's going to be a shooting threat. Selena DiPietro, if she gets hot, she's the best three-point shooter on the team, and Xenakis as well behind the arc.
Now guys, I know you mentioned injury, Josh, but how much can we actually put on injuries? This team, I think we thought they might have been a lot better than they were. This team had cracks fundamentally in their game, but you guys mentioned some people coming back.
Right.
I think the people coming back are just role players. I mean, that's all they've ever been, and they're streaky players, and that is what's scary. This is going to be a team where Coach Grenick has to go back to his roots, which is defense. Because all these players on offense, I know they've shown at times they can score, but they're streaky. You can't rely on streaky shooters to carry you.
Right. This is definitely, I think, one of Grenick's toughest years as head coach. And you look at it, and these starters, and they were role players last year, so they got to step up their game, knowing that they lost 4 of their 5 starters. So I think maybe that might be a positive going in. They might have a chip on their shoulder and want to prove the KIC wrong.
And the goal last year entering the season, they all said, was to go undefeated and make it to nationals. 25-5 overall was nothing to be disappointed about. 11-3 overall in conference. They slipped towards the end of the year. This year, the goals have to kind of be reevaluated maybe, and don't aim to go undefeated. Your goal should always be to win. But in this case, they need to get adjusted early and see how they play with each other, because this has never been a lineup that has really been together these last couple years.
25-5, that's without Sam Weir. Had she played,
who
it
knows?
might have been a different
Who
ending.
knows?
Now, guys, let's switch over to the men's team, which, when it came tournament time last year, almost played Cinderella team and almost pulled a very big upset in the conference championship. Now, this year, they're trying to be one of those higher seeds to where somebody's trying to pull Cinderella on them. What do we see coming back from the men?
Well, they have 3 of their 5 returning starters. You got Jeremy Williams, TJ Lanier, and Yandel Dennis. So you could say this team has a little bit higher of expectations going into the season. You mentioned they did go deep in the KIC finals last year, ended up losing to IU East, but no one expected them to make it that far, so that was a positive going into last year. So yeah, you think maybe they might improve from that 16-13 record from last year, and we'll see where it goes.
A couple players that are going to really miss are Alan Heater and Barry Smith down low.
Yeah.
2 of our bigger rebounders, our biggest rebounders, are now gone, and we need to try and replace them. But, I mean, that was a team that was fun to watch last year towards the end when they made that late run.
Yeah.
And we're going to see offense this year. Defense,
course,
what is
man.
defense? And so this men's team's going to try and score, and they run the floor quickly. And for the first time in a few years, the men may have a better record at the end of the year than the women.
And Josh, you're not right. You're actually correct about that. I would not be shocked if the men have a better record. They do lack the height, though, with Alan Heater and Barry Smith being seniors last year. They're gone. So they're going to honestly rely on some of the smaller 6'5" players that can transition between guards and forwards, like the 2 new people, the Cantera brothers. I believe that's, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but they're both 6'5", and they're both forwards. So Coach Reger is going to use them as kind of their rebound skills, but also on the offensive side. His philosophy, score more points, and we're going to see a lot of points this year.
Now, guys, this year, I think this team goes back to where Coach Reger is stronger at. He has a bunch of stretch forwards, stretch guards. His smallest 2 players are Mann and Williams, who are a little bit under 6'2", but everyone else is 6'4", 6'5". He's playing with a bunch of stretch 3s up there, which is the game he wants to play, which is going to be spread the floor, high percentage shots, and when the 3's open, make at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Passing the ball is going to be very, even though he doesn't like it. If they get out in transition and have the man advantage on like a 3-2 run, if they can get the ball out quickly to that open man, it's going to make a lot of difference throughout the season. And I won't be shocked if that happens a lot.
And, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how this team gels together with two new starters in that place, because you have 3 leaders in that locker room, and yeah, I'm just curious to see early on how this team reacts and if they play well.
And last year, especially in the second half of the year, Jeremy Williams had to play the point a lot.
Yeah.
This year, early on at least in the preseason, it looks like he's playing the two-guard spot.
Yeah.
And Kelvin Goodwin, he came in, he led Slippery Rock University last year in scoring. It's an NCAA D2 school, be it was only 12.7 points per game, but he still led the team. So he's coming out, transferring from a good school. Before that, he was at #1 ranked West Liberty in NCAA D2. So he brings something unique to this team, and Jeremy Williams is going to kind of be able to play his game and play that two-guard spot.
And that's going to be a big advantage for Point Park this season.